The sun on planet Varish was sharp and angry. Heat waves danced above the red sand, and the air smelled like old metal and burnt oil. People walked quickly between tents, hoods over their heads, not talking to each other. It was slave market day. Jaren, a human trader from Earth, didn't plan to stop here. He was only looking for ship parts, maybe some fuel. But when he passed the iron gates of the slave pens, something inside him made him stop walking. His boots crunched on the gravel. He turned his head and looked inside. Behind the rusted bars, dozens of aliens sat in silence. Some were crying, some stared at the ground, and a few begged every time someone walked past. But one didn't move at all. She was sitting in the far corner of the cage, knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped tight around herself. Her skin was pale lavender, almost silver in the sun. Her long dark hair hung loose, dirty and tangled. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She just stared straight ahead, like the world didn't matter anymore. Jaren frowned. He didn't know why, but he walked closer. His eyes scanned the tags hanging on the cage. Species unknown, age estimated early adult, language limited, behavior silent, not useful. That last part made his stomach twist. "Hey," he called softly, careful not to scare her. "Can you hear me?" The girl didn't answer, but her eyes moved. They turned slowly toward him, and the look in them made Jaren stop breathing. She wasn't scared. She wasn't angry. She looked at him like she already knew something about him, like she had been waiting. Jaren stepped closer. "Do you understand me?" Still no words. She blinked slowly, then lowered her head. The metal collar on her neck caught the light. It was old and tight, and there were small burn marks on her shoulders. "Don't waste your time," a voice called behind him. Jaren, where turned and saw a wrinkled old trader chewing on something brown. "That one's broken," the man said. "Hasn't spoken since we bought her 5 years ago. Can't even scream anymore." Jaren's jaw clenched. "What's the price?" The trader laughed. "You want that one?" He spat on the ground. "She's yours for half a fuel cell. We just want to clear space." He didn't even think twice. Jaren tossed over a cell, and the trader unlocked the gate. "You'll regret it," the man said. "She's dead on the inside." Jaren walked into the cage. The other slaves shrank away from him. The girl didn't move. When he reached her, he knelt down. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. "I'm getting you out of here." She looked up again, confused. He reached for her gently, and she didn't pull away. He picked her up in his arms. She was lighter than he expected, like her bones were hollow. She smelled like metal and old dust. But even as he carried her out, she didn't fight him. She didn't speak. She didn't ask why. Back on his ship, Jaren laid her down on a clean bed. He brought her water and wrapped her in a warm blanket. She didn't move much, but she drank. Her fingers were shaking. He tried to speak slowly. "Can you tell me your name?" She stared at him for a moment, then whispered one word, broken and dry. Jaren frowned. "That's not a name, that's a number." She nodded slightly. He sat down beside her. "You're safe now. No more cages, no more collars. You can rest here." For the first time, her expression changed, just a little. Her lips twitched. Not quite a smile, but not fear either. That night, Jaren stood outside her room. He watched the stars through the small ship window. He couldn't explain what he felt. He had rescued others before, helped lost children and refugees during the war. But this was different. There was something about that girl, something in her, by AIs when they looked at him. Not just sadness, but something buried under it, a tiny spark like hope that had been buried for too long. He didn't even know her real name, but he promised himself one thing. He would never let her feel like a number again. Asterisk, the door slammed shut without a lock, but she still flinched. Her body tensed like a wire, knees pressed against her chest, eyes wide open in the dim cabin light. She hadn't slept since arriving. Not really. She only closed her eyes when he walked away. Only when the hum of the engine told her no one else was near. Jaren sat in the pilot's seat, watching her through the glass panel. She was wrapped in a thick blanket, still wearing the oversized shirt he gave her, hair falling like shadows around her face. She hadn't spoken again since she said 31. He waited for her to ask something. Maybe "Where are we going?" or "Why did you help me?" But she said nothing. Not even when he brought her food. She only ate when he left the room, like a wild animal. The ship beeped softly as it crossed into low orbit. Jaren adjusted the controls, sighed, then stood and walked toward the back where she sat. He opened the door gently. She turned her head, but didn't back away. "I brought you clean water," he said, placing the cup on the small table. She looked at it, then looked at him. "Do you want to know where we're going?" She shook her head. "I'm Jaren." That it, sitting across from her. "That's my name. On Earth it means guardian." She tilted her head slightly, curious but quiet. "You said your name was 31. Did they give that to you?" She nodded slowly. "But what's your real name?" Silence filled the room. "I don't know," she said finally, voice like dry wind. "They took it when I was small. They told me numbers are easier." Jaren's eyes darkened. He leaned forward. "Your name didn't disappear. You just forgot it. Maybe if we talk more, it'll come back to you." She looked away. "Talking gets you hurt." He sat back, hands open and calm. "Not here." She glanced at the cup of water again. Then, for the first time, she reached out and took a sip while he was still in the room. It wasn't trust, not yet, but it was something that... Next morning she sat at the small table, knees tucked under her chin, watching him fix the ship's nav panel. Her eyes followed every move he made, like she was studying how humans worked. He felt her gaze and turned. I never asked, do you know how to read? She didn't answer right away. I used to, I think, before they burned the books. He nodded gently. Then we'll start again, letter by letter. He pulled out a small screen and tapped it, showing a glowing blue letter. She stared at it like it was a ghost. A, he said softly. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, then slowly tried. Ah, he smiled. That's it. Her lips trembled, but she nodded. He moved to the next letter. B like brave. She looked at him. What is brave? He set the screen down. It's when someone does something even though they're scared. She blinked then. Maybe I was brave once. He gave a slow, quiet smile. I think you still are. That night, she had a nightmare. He heard the scream, not loud, but sharp and broken, cutting through the silence like a blade. Jaren ran to her room. The door was open. She was curled in the corner, body shaking, eyes wild with fear. They're coming, she whispered. They always come when the door's not locked. He knelt beside her. No one's coming. You're not there anymore. This is my ship. You're safe. She didn't move. Look at me, he said gently. I'm here. I won't let anyone touch you. Her breathing slowed a little. Her eyes finally met his. Still afraid, but she was listening. He offered his hand, not forcing anything. Just waiting. She stared at it, then, carefully, she reached out and placed her small hand in his. He helped her stand and guided her back to the bed. I'll sit here, he said, until you fall asleep. You don't have to be alone. She lay down slowly, still watching him. After a few minutes, her eyes closed. The tremble in her hands faded, and for the first time, she slept without locking herself inside her own fear. In the morning, she stood near the front of the ship, holding onto a railing, watching stars float by. Jaren walked up beside her. She looked at him, voice small. If I remember my name one day, can I keep it? He nodded. Double quotes, no one can take it from you again. She looked at the stars. A tiny smile touched her lips, barely there. Maybe she didn't have a name now. Maybe she had forgotten who she was, but someone finally cared enough to help her remember. The door slammed shut behind her, but this time, it was not from violence. It was wind. Just wind. But she still dropped the cup she was holding. Water spilled across the metal floor, and she dropped to her knees in a panic, wiping it with her sleeves, whispering sorry over and over again. Her voice cracked with fear. Her shoulders curled tight, as if waiting for someone to strike, but no one did. Jaren came running when he heard the crash. He stopped in the hallway, saw her on the floor, her body shaking. Her hands were red from scrubbing. He didn't raise his voice. He knelt beside her and said gently, it's just water. You don't have to be afraid. She kept wiping, like she didn't hear him. He reached out slowly, placed a soft cloth in her hands, and whispered, no one's angry. She looked up with wide eyes. Then she whispered, last time I spilled something. They locked me in a box. Jaren's stomach turned cold. A box, she nodded. No air, no light, just noise, loud noise that hurt. He sat on the floor beside her, voice calm. You're not there now. No more boxes, no more punishment. She looked at the spilled water, then looked at him, and for the first time, she didn't clean it. She let it sit. A small act of trust. Later that day, Jaren showed her around the ship. This is the storage room, he said, opening the door to a small metal space, but as soon as the door opened, she froze. Her breath caught in her throat. The room was dark. No windows. The walls tight. No, she whispered. No, no, no. She backed away so fast she tripped. Her hands hit the floor with a smack. Jaren moved to help, but she crawled backward, eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. He paused, held up his hands. It's okay, we'll stay out. I didn't know. She shook her head. I can't go in there. You don't have to. Never again. She stared at the door, breathing fast. That's where they took me when I disobeyed. No light, no time, just screams. He sat beside her, voice steady. You're not back there. You're here with me. The door slowly closed, soft and quiet. She blinked like she had just escaped something alive. That night, she did not sleep in her bed. She sat by the hallway wall, knees to chest, staring at the shadows. Jaren saw her there during his check. He walked slowly, not wanting to startle her. You're not tired, she shrugged. The room feels too safe, she said. Like it's a trick. Jaren sat across from her. No tricks, just peace. You've lived too long in fear. Your body forgot how to rest. She hugged her knees tighter. I used to sleep with my eyes open. That way I could see if they were coming. They're not coming now. I know, she said, but my heart still thinks they are. He looked at her carefully. Do you want to keep the door open tonight? She didn't answer right away. Then she nodded. The next day, Jaren made her a gift. It was a bracelet, made from old wires and scrap beads he found in the engine room. One blue, one silver, one gold dot. She held it like it was the most delicate thing in the universe. What is it? She asked softly. A charm, he said, for protection. A reminder that you're not a number anymore. You're not a slave. You're someone. She turned the bracelet in her hands, eyes blinking like tears wanted to come but didn't. know how. I don't know how to be someone. You don't have to figure it out alone. The next few days passed quietly. She read from the language tablet. She traced letters with her fingers. She said A through F out loud each morning. She even tried to cook a simple meal, though she burned the rice. She screamed once in the kitchen. The fire alarm went off. She thought it was a warning system, like the ones in her prison cell. But Jaren just laughed, turned off the alarm, and showed her how to fan the smoke. You didn't break anything, he said. You're learning. She looked confused. No punishment, he said firmly. Not here. Not ever. That night, she finally lay on the bed with the door wide open. The stars outside the window blinked slowly, like quiet breaths. Jaren passed by the hallway and paused. Still awake, she nodded. I thought the room would eat me, she said. But it's just a room. He smiled. Sometimes rooms can be safe too. Not all closed spaces are cages. She looked at the ceiling, then down at her bracelet. I want to remember who I was. Before all this, you will, he said. And when you do, I'll be here. She closed her eyes for the first time. She fell asleep with the door open. The alien girl gasped awake, but this time not from fear. Her hands reached for her neck, searching for the collar that used to shock her. Awake, but it wasn't there. Only smooth skin and a heartbeat she could hear clearly in the silence. She sat up slowly, blanket slipping off her shoulders, and stared out the small round window beside her bed. Stars floated by like tiny glowing fish in a sea of black. She pressed her hand to the glass, cold, real. She was still here, still free. It was hard to believe this wasn't a dream. She turned her head. The door was open, just like she left it. No one came through. No one dragged her back. Jaren was in the cargo bay, tightening loose bolts on the ship's floor when he heard small footsteps behind him. He turned and saw her standing there, barefoot, wearing the soft beige robe he gave her. She didn't speak right away. He wiped his hands with a cloth and waited. I want to help, she said at last, voice quiet, but steady. He raised an eyebrow. Help with what? Something normal, something that doesn't hurt. He smiled. You can hand me the tools. I'll show you which ones. She nodded, sat beside him on the floor, and reached for the small metal box. Her fingers moved carefully, like every object might explode. But she didn't tremble this time. As Jaren worked, he taught her the names. This is a bolt driver. That one's a plasma wrench. She repeated them, soft at first, but with growing confidence. He glanced at her and asked, ever fixed a ship? Before she looked at him, her mouth twitching just slightly. Never touched anything without permission before. Then maybe it's time to start. Later that evening, Jaren showed her the food replicator. He pressed a few buttons, and a warm bowl of soup slid onto the tray. She jumped back a little, then laughed, a quiet, surprised sound, like it had escaped on its own. He looked at her. Was that a laugh? She covered her mouth, unsure. I think it was, he said with a grin. I've never laughed before, she admitted. Not like that. I didn't know how it would feel. What did it feel like? She paused. Then, said Lad, air going the wrong way, but not in a bad way. He chuckled. That's actually pretty accurate. After dinner, Jaren brought her something wrapped in cloth. She opened it slowly. Inside was a worn book with pages, made from real paper. She held it like it was something holy. Where did you get this from? Earth. It's old. From before the war. What's it about? It's called The Secret Garden. It's about a girl who finds something broken and helps it grow again. She didn't speak, just stared at the book for a long time, then whispered, Can I keep it near me? When I sleep, it's yours now. The next day, she went to the mirror and looked at herself. Really looked. Her hair was still tangled, but her eyes looked brighter. Her skin had color again. The bruises were fading. She raised her hand and touched her own face like it belonged to someone else. Just she whispered, This is me. I'm still here. She washed her hair, brushed it, and tied it back with a soft band Jaren gave her when she stepped out. Jaren nearly dropped his datapad. You look different, he said. Do I? In a good way. She didn't smile, but her eyes shimmered, like she wanted to dot in the days that followed. She spoke more. She read aloud from her book. She asked questions about stars, engines, Earth, even music. Do people sing on your planet? She asked once. All the time, Jaren said. Some sing for love, some sing for sorrow. Do you know any songs? He nodded, then sang a short tune. His voice was rough, but gentle. She listened, eyes wide. Sing again, she whispered when he stopped. You like it? It sounds like something soft in the air, like wings. Then next time we'll find you a song. One night, while cleaning the kitchen, she found an old photo buried behind supplies. It was a family. A woman, 2 kids, and a man who looked just like Jaren, only younger. She brought it to him. Is this you? He took the photo, stared at it, and nodded. My sister and her kids. They're gone now. Lost during the invasion. She sat beside him. I lost everyone too. He looked at her. But we're not alone anymore. She hesitated, then placed her hand over his dot. Her fingers were still thin, still healing, but they didn't shake. Before bed, she stood by her window again. The stars looked the same as always, but now she felt like they were watching her too, not as a number, not as a slave, but as someone who had a name, even if she hadn't found it yet. She closed her eyes and whispered, I'm learning to breathe again. The smell hit her first, thick like oil, bitter like rust. Her hands froze over the book she was reading, fingers locked mid-turn. She had smelled it too many times before on chains, on boots, on hands that never touched gently. She stood up, shaking. Her knees went weak. Jaren was in the cockpit when the scanner beeped. Incoming ship, no ID tag. No known registration. He narrowed his eyes. That's not a trader. He checked the weapons and kept the engine warm, just in case. The girl walked into the room quietly, her eyes wide, her lips pressed tight. He turned and saw the color drain from her face. What's wrong? She whispered. He's here. The ship that landed wasn't large. Old, rusted, patched with stolen parts. But when the ramp opened, the man who stepped out carried something heavier than weapons. He carried a history made of fear. Tall, broad-shouldered, skin rough like cracked stone. One eye was cybernetic, the other looked dead. He didn't look around. He walked straight toward Jaren's ship. Inside, the girl stood behind the doorframe, clutching her bracelet so tight her fingers turned pale. I can stay hidden, she said. I'll be quiet. I'll go to the back. No, Jaren said firmly. You stay with me. But if he sees me, he won't take you. She shook her head. You don't understand. He always takes me. Jaren opened the door and stepped out into the heat. The two men faced each other between the ships. The slaver didn't speak at first. He simply stared. Then he smirked. You took something that belongs to me. Jaren stood calm. She doesn't belong to anyone. She was registered property of Goro Markets. Bought and paid. I got papers. You also have burn marks on her back. You think that gives you rights? The slaver took a step closer. She's trained, obedient, quiet. You think she's anything more than that? Jaren's hand hovered near his sidearm. She's a person. And if you take another step, I'll show you what happens when someone forgets that. Inside the ship, she heard every word. Her body wanted to run, to hide, to scream. But then her eyes landed on the book on the table. The Secret Garden. She remembered the little girl in the story. Lost alone, but brave enough to find light in the dark. And she remembered what Jaren had said. You're someone. Her breathing slowed. She walked to the hallway. She didn't hide. Outside, the slaver scoffed. You think you can protect her from everything? I'll die trying, Jaren replied. A new voice interrupted them. You don't have to. The girl stepped down from the ramp, barefoot, eyes locked on the man who had once owned her. He turned, shocked. Well, look at that, he growled. Still pretty, still obedient. She stood tall. I am not your number anymore. His smile vanished. You think because you wear a clean dress and sleep on a soft bed, you're free? I don't think. I know. He raised his hand like he meant to strike. A fast move, a habit, but he never reached her. Jaren's weapon was already drawn, pointed at the slaver's chest. One step closer and the air would burn. The slaver looked between them, then spat on the ground. Not worth it. She'll come crawling back when she's hungry. He turned and walked back to his ship. But the girl raised her voice one last time. I'd rather die hungry than live as nothing. That night the girl didn't cry. She sat with Jaren at the small kitchen table, sipping warm broth. Her hands were steady. You didn't have to come outside, Jaren said softly. I did. Why? She looked at him with steady eyes. Because if I kept hiding, I would always be afraid. And I'm tired of being afraid. He reached across the table and held her hand. You were stronger than I ever was, he said. She shook her head. No, you just reminded me I was still alive. Later, in her room, she opened her book and wrote something on the first page. Her hand moved slowly, but the letters were clear. My name is Ara. She didn't know where the name came from. Maybe it had always been there, buried deep under fear and silence. But now, it was hers again. And no one would take it from her. Asterisk. The commercial played on the holoscreen as she washed the dishes. It showed two humans kissing under falling stars, holding each other like they were afraid to let go. The music behind it was soft, filled with strings and longing. The words real love appeared in glowing blue. Ayra stopped moving. The water ran over her fingers, but her eyes didn't blink. She watched the scene like it was some strange magic, something beautiful but far away, like stars she could never touch. Jaren walked in, wiping his hands with a rag. You okay? She pointed at the screen. What are they doing? He followed her gaze. That's a couple, he said. They're in love. Her eyebrows pulled together. What does love mean? He looked at her carefully. It means caring for someone more than yourself, wanting to protect them, to see them happy, being close, not because you have to but because you want to. She was quiet, too quiet. Then she asked, have I ever been loved? Jaren didn't answer right away. He walked closer, turned off the holler, and sat across from her. Not by them, he said gently, but maybe you're starting to feel what it's like now. She touched her bracelet. I don't know what this feeling is. When you smile, I feel something warm. When you're gone too long, I feel something strange, like waiting hurts. That's the beginning of love. Is it safe? He smiled sadly. No, but it's worth it. That night, Ara couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her fingers tracing the book beside her. Her heart was moving in ways she didn't understand. Not fear, not sadness, but something she couldn't name. She stood up and walked barefoot to the main deck. Jaren was there, sitting by the window, looking out at the stars. She hesitated, then sat beside him. He glanced at her. Couldn't sleep, she shook her head. I keep thinking, she said softly, about what it means to belong. He nodded. And I've belonged to collars, to cages, to chains. But that was never real. She looked at him, I think. I want to belong to something that makes me feel safe, not trapped. Something that lets me breathe. He didn't speak, she whispered. Is it wrong if I want to belong to you? He turned toward her slowly. Not if you want it freely. I don't know how to be close to someone, she admitted. Not like that. I'm afraid I'll do it wrong. He reached out, gently brushing her hand. There's no wrong way to care. You're not broken, Ara, you're healing. She looked at their hands touching. I used to flinch when someone touched me, but when it's you, I feel calmer. He smiled. That's love growing. The next day, Ara asked to cook something new. Jaren watched her try, laugh, burn the first pan, and try again. She hummed a little song from the book he gave her. He didn't recognize it at first, then realized she had made it up. A tune of her own. She placed a bowl of soup in front of him and waited nervously. He tasted it, then gave her a thumbs up. You're becoming a real chef. Her face lit up. In that moment, she didn't look like a former slave. She looked like someone free. Later, as they sat watching the stars again, she asked, what would someone do if they were truly in love? Jaren looked at her, thinking. They would tell the truth. They would stay, even when things are hard. They would see your scars and not run away. Even if those scars are deep, especially then. She held her hand up to the window, her fingers lining up with the stars. I think I want to be someone who can give love, not just wait for it. You already are, he said. You just don't see it yet. She looked at him with eyes full of wonder. Then, do you love me? He didn't answer with words. He placed his hand over her heart, feeling it beat fast. I think I've loved you since the day you looked at me through the iron gate. Her breath caught. I didn't even speak that day, but your eyes did. She placed her hand over his. Then let me learn what love means. With you. That night, she didn't sleep alone, not because she was afraid, but because she chose not to. Jaren lay beside her, over the blanket, just holding her hand. No words, no rush, just warmth. Just trust. Her heart didn't race in fear this time. It raced with something else, something she now understood. She stood in front of the mirror, not to check her hair or her clothes, but to look at her reflection with new eyes. Her fingers touched her collarbone, where the scar used to remind her of pain. Now it reminded her of survival. Ayra breathed. In slow, for the first time, her breath didn't shake. In the reflection, she saw a woman who had been hurt, but not broken, a girl once trapped in silence, now filled with her own voice. Today was different. Today felt like something was coming. Jaren was in the engine bay, hands dirty with grease, but a strange nervous energy followed him. He had faced slavers, thieves, even warlords, but this was harder. He wiped his hands, opened a small drawer, and pulled out the tiny item he'd hidden for weeks. It wasn't shiny, it wasn't expensive, but it was his. Made from recycled star metal, shaped by his hands. It was a simple ring with a blue stone at the center. He turned it between his fingers, breathing deep. He was not sure what she would say, but he needed her to hear the word. Ara walked through the hallway barefoot, her feet quiet on the metal floor. She stopped near the cockpit, looking out at the stars. A familiar sight, but today, the stars didn't look like a prison. They looked like doors. Doors to places she could choose. She heard footsteps behind her. She didn't turn. She knew it was him. Jaren stepped beside her, holding something behind his back. They stood in silence for a moment, then he spoke. Do you remember when I first saw you? She nodded. I was behind the iron gate. You didn't speak. I didn't need to. You looked at me like I was human. He smiled. You are. She turned to face him. He took her hand gently. I've seen you fight your fear. Learn to laugh, learn to speak. You brought this ship back to life just by being in it. She looked down. I'm still learning. And I want to learn with you every day. Then, with no dramatic music, no fancy words, he knelt and opened his hand. Inside was the small ring. Her breath caught, not from fear, from something far stronger. I want to call you something, he said. Not number. Not a guest, not just era. He looked up, eyes steady. I want to call you my wife. The room felt too still. She didn't speak. Her hands trembled but didn't pull away. Tears gathered in her eyes, but she didn't blink them away. You want me? His voice was warm. Yes, even after all I've been through. Because, while of it she covered her mouth. A quiet sound escaping her lips. No scream, no sob. Just a broken whisper. I've never been wanted. Not truly. You are now. She knelt with him, both of them sitting on the cold floor, and took the ring with both hands. I don't know how to be a wife, he smiled. We'll figure it out together. She placed the ring on her finger. It slid on smoothly, like it had always belonged there. And then, without warning, she began to cry. Not silent tears. Not the kind that hide, but deep, full cries that shook her chest as if years of pain were washing away in one river of sound. He wrapped his arms around her, held her through it, letting her fall without fear. She clung to him like an anchor. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't be, he said. You're finally free to feel. Hours later the stars still shone. She sat beside him, her head resting on his shoulder. Do you think I'll be enough? You already are. Even if I still get scared, I'll be scared too. But love means staying. She reached for his hand and squeezed it. Then I'll stay too. That night, she didn't sleep in silence. She sang a quiet song she made herself. No real words, just humming and soft sounds, rising and falling like a tide dot. It was the sound of healing, of choosing, of belonging. On the small table by her bed, her book lay open. A single word was written across the back page. Wife not given to her, chosen by her. Word that once felt like a dream now wrapped around her like warmth. She whispered it again, this time with a smile, and let the stars hear her voice.